Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. Joining us for his 2022 outlook in the fintech space is Shahrawat. He's a director and senior member of Rosenblatt Securities Investment Bank. Dee, it's great to have you with us. Welcome back to Trade Talks.
Great to see you, Jill. Thank you for having us.
All right, you got it. And it's been quite the year for U.S. markets. You guys are experts in the fintech space. Tell us how the year has been for all the firms that went public in this sector.
Sure, Jill, happy to do that. So what a tremendous year. So if we can show the team the chart that we kind of put together that shows public market performance for all the fintechs that went public this year. So Nasdaq, as of close yesterday, my team just put the numbers together, was up, actually, as of Monday, was up 26%. The fintech index, and I'm looking at the numbers here because they just got, we just finished the analysis literally late last night. The fintech index overall was just up about 1%. So the overall fintech index, which is basically 50 companies that have been public over the last 10 years, collectively, they were only about 1%. Those fintechs that went public only in 2021, they're actually down a good 11%. So while the public markets were roaring this year, the fintech index of all public companies in the fintech, and particularly the fintechs that went public this year, have actually trailed the Nasdaq.
And you do a lot of banking deals in the private market, like being involved in Robinhood's IPO. Tell us what happened this year with fintech funding, M&As, IPOs, and SPACs.
Sure, Jill, absolutely. So let me just quickly, run the numbers. So from a private market, it was absolutely a terrific year for the fintech, universe, best year ever. So if you look at the amount of funding in 2021, we're expecting that the number is going to come in at about $145 billion of private capital that went into funding fintech companies. To give you a sense, that was almost about 2.5 times the combined total of what was raised in 2019 and 2020. So on the funding side, absolutely stellar growth in funding. On the IPO side, like I said, it was a checkered, mixed record. There were a lot of IPOs, about 28 IPOs plus SPACs went public this year. A lot of capital raised. Two standout large deals were obviously the Coinbase offering, one of the largest IPOs ever, and the other one was Robinhood. On the M&A side, biggest deal was Square acquiring Afterpay, which was a major deal in the BNPL space for $29 billion. But a number of deals in the M&A space, it was outstanding, highest amount of M&A deals, both in terms of dollar volume and number ever in the last 10 years. So both funding, IPOs, and M&A market was very robust in 2021.
And do you peel the onion a little back further for us? What were notable events in particular sectors like challenger banks and payments and wealth management?
Absolutely, Jill. So this was a year where the leaders and the laggards were kind of split apart, and we had major in the challenger bank space, major players like whether it's Revolut or Chime did extremely well. Some of the other challenger banks kind of struggled, including some that went public this year. On the payment side, the biggest story was that the next evolution of payments is going to be in programmable money, so using stable coins to enable payments. And then lastly, I'll say on the retail wealth management space, biggest story obviously was the participation of retail investors, almost about 35%, 30 to 32% of the total equity market on the backs of companies like Robinhood have really caused a renaissance in the retail markets. So those are three trends across, wealth management, payments, and capital markets.
And of course, everyone wants to hear about crypto and blockchain these days. What happened in these areas this year?
Well, the number one area we looked at as bankers was the companies that are building the infrastructure, the pipes and the platforms, the roads and the bridges for greater amount of institutional participation in the crypto market. That was the number one area we looked at, where a tremendous amount of money went into funding companies that are going to build the plumbing on which big institutions can buy and sell and hold crypto going into the future.
And finally, Dee, what's your outlook for fintech in 2022?
I think it's going to be another glorious year on the private market side. On the public market side, we've got to see what the fallout is of some of the public fintechs that went public this year and how badly they performed this year. So overall, I think it's going to be a mixed story, both on the private and the public side. We're still very hopeful on the private side. There's going to be record amounts of funding coming into the fintech market, lots of room, and we absolutely look forward to the next year to be another glorious year, at least on the private funding side of the fintech market.
All right, Dee, we appreciate the insight as always. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq.